Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to America once again for the first time in what feels like a good little while. I actually can't remember what the last American beer review I filmed was, come to think of it. But for this review, we are going to have a look at another brewery that I've never tried anything from before, and hopefully that makes for quite an interesting review. For this one then, we are going to return to the state of Illinois, which is in the Midwest. And we're going to have a look at my first ever beer from Destihl Brewery. So these guys have appeared quite suddenly here in Sweden over the last kind of month or two. But they do seem to have quite a few beers scheduled to come over here. So this particular beer comes from their Deadhead series, which is a series of IPAs that they do. It's called the Extended Jam. It's a hazy New England style IPA coming in at 6.8% ABV. So yeah, curious to see what this one has in store for us. One of the things that really caught my eye about this was just how cheap it was, particularly when you consider it's an American import beer. I think this one only cost somewhere in the region of like 35 Swedish kroner, so that's, you know, €3.50, about $3 about £3, £3 British, something like that. So I mean, for an American brewed IPA, it's incredibly cheap actually, and I don't know why it's so cheap, come to think of it. So yeah, hopefully this turns out to be a nice beer. This one was released as part of the Tillfälligt temporary sortiment in Systembolaget on the 25th of August 2020. So yeah, I'm really curious just to see what this has in store for us. It's got a few hops in it that we don't see so often, Eldorado and Galena. Galena usually a bittering hop, Eldorado is quite, you know, tropically, passion fruity, pineapple-y, these kind of things, but Mosaic we do of course know pretty well actually. But yeah, hopefully this makes for a nice introduction to Destihl Brewing Company, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. Always nice to introduce new and different breweries from different parts of America here on the channel, of course. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Destihl Brewing Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, or regularly being added to normally. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Destihl Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned earlier, Destihl Brewing Company are based in Normal in Illinois, and Normal is kind of right in the middle of the state, quite close to Bloomington. From what I've seen on the map, and it is, yeah, pretty much right slap in the centre of the place. But the company was founded back in 2005 by Matt and Lynn Potts. So Matt had begun homebrewing back in 1995 after Lynn bought him a 5-gallon glass homebrewing kit for his Crispness, and he just, you know, learned from books, learned from the internet I think as well, and just kind of further expanded his hobby. But later in 2001 they opened their first brew pub, which was called Elmwood Brewing Company, and that was quite successful actually. But Matt was later approached about opening another brew pub by a developer, and they decided that a new venture was for them and they went for it. So later in 2007 they bought in Jason Bratcher and Troy and Laurie Nelson to help, you know, to the team for the new company, and this was to help them run the brew pub, and this opened in November of 2017, Destihl Brewing Company. So later in 2011 they opened up a second location in Champaign in Illinois, and following this they discussed kind of expanding the brewing operations. They focused on this because the brew pubs were pretty much just producing enough beer for the kind of brewery restaurants that they had. So they invested on a new production facility, and this was opened at the GE warehouses in Bloomington, Illinois, and this began production back in 2013. They continued to expand within this new facility, but it became clear, you know, quite early on that this facility was just not going to be big enough to meet the demand for their beer. So they invested in a new $15 million facility in Illinois, and this features a large beer hall. I think it was somewhere in the region of like 7,500 square feet. Not sure how that translates into to square meters, maybe about 2,000 square meters, 2,500 square meters, something like that. But this also houses the corporate offices for the company as well, and they've got a massive brewing capacity there as well, from what I understand. That's maybe why this beer was so cheap over here in Europe. So they've maybe got so much, they're maybe able to produce so much that they can sell abroad for crazy prices, actually, come to think of it. But yeah, as they've continued to expand over the last couple of years and to produce more different beers, and as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced 570 different beers according to Untappd. They've got a few different series there. They've got the Deadhead IPA series, they've got the Wild Sour series, the Barrel Aged series, their core range, and they also do hard seltzers as well. That seems to be becoming a bit of a bigger thing over here. I think it's even some of the European breweries. I think it's been going on in America for quite a while, actually, the hard seltzers, but some of the European breweries are now starting to have a go at these kind of hard seltzer things. So yeah, who knows? I've never tried one, so that's maybe something I need to look at in the fairly near future. But yeah, as I say, this one, this seems like quite an interesting brewery. I know that Chicago is a massive beer city. You've seen me review a good number of beers from Chicago, thanks to one of my founders, one of my subscribers, Jesse Holden. He sent me a good number of beers from Chicago before, which have been very, very nice. And yeah, probably I will get back over there again at some point and do some more kind of out and about filming. Actually, that would definitely be a cool thing to do. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Destihl Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. I'm very curious to see what this has in store for us. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6.8% New England Hazy IPA, however you want to call it. The hops in this one apparently are Mosaic, which is a lovely kind of tangerine orangey type hop, Galena, which is mainly used as a bittering hop from what I understand, but it does have some kind of citrusy fruity elements to it. And then we've also got El Dorado, which is kind of passion fruity, mangoey, pineapple-y as well, from what I remember. It's one of these kind of nice tropically type hops. But yeah, this can, I believe, is 473 millilitres. That's 1 American pint. That, of course, is different from the British Imperial pint at 568 millilitres. So yeah, and I think these American pints, I've never understood the American measurement system with the quarts and things like that. I wish they would just use metric, and it'd be better. I wish every brewery in the world would just use half litre in 330s. It would make it a lot easier. But yeah, this one, it says on the side here, our Deadhead IPA series melds the alluring vibe of our favourite music with unbound takes on the hoppy beers we love to drink, unleashing a whole new groove. Our extended jam IPA features Pilsner malt, flaked oats, wheat, and an encore of Mosaic, Galena, and El Dorado hops, awakening jammy aromas and flavours reminiscent of tropical and stone fruits. So yeah, this one I think should be really nice, actually. Very, very curious to see what this has in store. I have to say the artwork on this one is pretty impressive. So yeah, well done to Destihl Brewing Company for their artwork. I think that is pretty cool. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Black top on the can, incidentally. So yeah, let's go for it. Yeah. Well, I tell you something, this one does smell pretty nice when you open it up, actually. Yeah, El Dorado, I have to admit, I think El Dorado is quite an underrated hop. We don't see it too often over here in Europe. I have had it a couple of times recently, but compared to, you know, the Mosaics, the Citras, and things like this, you just don't see it all that often. Simcoe and Victoria's Secret and a bit of Galaxy these days, these are the ones that a lot of breweries are using for the kind of passion fruity, tropical fruit flavours. Idaho 7 is another one that's coming out of the States these days. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, I would say this is a lovely kind of pale yellow colour. I would probably compare this to like a pineapple juice type colour. You can see when we poured this beer there was about a quarter to a 1/3 finger of a quite bumpy white head. That's going to fade away to just be a very, very thin foamy layer. If I stick my fingers behind the glass, you can see it is quite hazy. For 6.8% though, it actually is one of the less hazy, the less kind of gloopy and soupy New England hazy IPAs that I've seen. I mean, this one, you know, 6.8%. You might expect a hazy IPA to be a little bit more hazy than this. If I compare this to the likes of the Steak Variants and the OOs and the and the Amars and things like that I'm drinking from Denmark and Sweden normally, this one definitely does look a little bit less hazy, but it does say on the can there that there's Pilsner malt in this one, or Pilsen, Czech Pilsen malt actually. So because it does, yeah, it said Pilsen rather than Pilsner, which is, you know, indicates Czech rather than German. But yeah, it's definitely one of the less hazy New Englands that I've come across recently, but nothing wrong with that. As long as the flavour's good, we don't really care about how hazy it is, I guess. So yeah, I think this one might be quite a crisp, easy drink in New England, so we'll just need to see. Let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one then, and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, this one, it does smell. It smells lovely and juicy and fruity, but at the same time you can smell this one's going to be a light sort of crisp beer actually. You can smell the sort of is it right to say you can smell the kind of the kind of crispness of the Pilsner malt coming out? Because I've always found that Pilsner malt, it has that really kind of crisp sort of thing, and you really just smell it right away. Pilsner malt is one of the things I hate trying to describe on the channel actually, but you can smell that Pilsner malt coming out of this one straight away. But it's got a lovely kind of light, white bready smoothness to it, a little bit of a biscuity quality in there as well, like a McVitie's digestive kind of thing. It does have a little bit of that, but to me the malt base comes across as very light and bready, a little bit kind of, you know, a little bit crisp and things as well actually. So, yeah, the aroma from this one on the malty side of things is quite nice. It's very much a straight shooter, I think, in that regard. I get a little bit of bitey wheat out of it. I don't get so much in the way of a kind of oaty creaminess. Does it have oats in it, this one? Does it say? Oh yeah, no, it does have oats there. The oats, I don't get too much of the oatiness out of this one, because normally the oats would give you a lovely big kind of smooth character. It's mainly the wheat and the kind of pale malty notes and the Pilsner malt that comes out of this one for me, and just a little bit of that kind of McVitie's digestive thing. So at the back of the nose I think you're getting more of the wheat malt, you're getting more of the kind of crisper pale malty notes in front of that, little bit of biscuit sitting on top of it, and yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about the I really don't think there's too much else to say about the malty side of the beer. On the hoppy side of the things then, there's a little bit of earthiness at the back of the nose there. That's Mosaic that'll give you that. There's some nice floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. It's a little touch spicy, to be honest with you, as well. You do get a little bit of that. I think Galena can give you a little bit of a kind of spicy character, but then again, you know, Mosaic usually is about 14% alpha acid. The Eldorado, I think, can be about 12% alpha acid normally. It's a bit lower, I think. So yeah, both of these hops will give you a little bit of spiciness, and it's all about when you actually add them in the boil, because if you add them early you are going to get more of that kind of big spicy character from them, but if you add them later you're kind of trading off the bitterness element for the flavour and aroma. So yeah, you do get a bit of that, so I wouldn't be surprised if, I think, yeah, Galena is usually used as a bittering hop, and probably what's happening is the Mosaic and the Eldorado are added in the last half hour of the boil. It's usually a 90-minute boil for an IPA, although it can be shorter, it can be a bit longer, just depends on how long you want to, or how much caramelisation of sugars you want. But yeah, on the it leans, I think the green side of the beer, it's got a good little bit of floral character to it, but the more I smell of it, the more it leans towards the grassy side of things. You get a nice tangerine orange. It's a little bit oily actually, and lovely and juicy, but you get a nice little bit of an oily character from the tangerine oranges in this one, and that's the Mosaic. But you also get a lovely kind of soft tropical fruit backbone to this one. It's got a little bit of pineapple to it. I think the pineapple is actually most prominent, and there's elements of like the slightly darker passion fruit and a bit of mango and stuff like that. But to me, this one it's mainly kind of pineapple and sort of tangerine oranges that are coming out of this one, that kind of slightly brighter tangerine rather than a straight up orange as you might get from Amarillo hops. But yeah, this one comes across really nicely in its aroma. Take a bit of time to appreciate that before you get stuck into it, but we're going to taste this one now. So this one is the oh, the name's gone right out of my head of this one now, that's terrible. This one was the Extended Jam. Yeah, the Extended Jam, that's terrible. I was thinking Deadhead, I was going to call it Deadhead, but that's the series. But yeah, this one is the Extended Jam, a 6.8% New England Hazy IPA, whatever you want to call it, from the Deadhead series by Destihl Brewing Company in Normal, right in the middle of Illinois in the American Midwest. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. That's nice actually, yeah. Yeah, this one, I like this, I really do. This one, it's definitely one of the more kind of, the first impression I have of this one is it's got a good little bit of bite to it, but it's got a lovely drinkability actually. I like it comes across as quite smooth, and it's got a bit of wetness to it as well. I think that's the Pilsner element to it. And if you've watched the channel recently, you know, in 2020 I've been going through a little bit of a lager phase, drinking a lot of Pilsners and things like that, and I appreciate this one because it's got the flavour profile of, it really has the flavour profile of quite a light and crisp New England IPA, but it really does almost have a kind of Pilsner level drinkability to it actually. This is a really nice, interesting beer, I have to say. Well done to Destihl Brewing Company for this one. I think it was Great Brands, it said on Systembolagets website, was the importer for this one. Does it say on the can here? Yeah, Great Brands, Sweden. So this batch has obviously been specially produced to come over here, because the can even has the little kind of Kroner pant thing to recycle. So yeah, it's obviously been a special batch they've produced to send over here. So yeah, hopefully we get more from these guys, because this one, I think this has turned out really quite nice. It's very drinkable and very crisp New England IPA, so it gets a thumbs up from me for sure. So yeah, this one for me, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then. Straight away with this beer, you get that pale malty quality, that just blankets the middle of your tongue. The further you go into the aftertaste, you'll feel the kind of bitiness of it just kind of smoothing out a little bit. The beer mellows out as you go further into the aftertaste. If you go towards the back third of your tongue, you get the kind of slightly thicker wheatiness just building up. You can feel that the beer is slightly thicker there, but at the same time, the wheat that you get out of this, I find that it actually does have a little bit of bite to it, and it's almost slightly spicy. The other thing that's going to add to that kind of, that sort of vibe that the beer has, will be the Pilsner malt, because you get the crispness from the Pilsner malt. Now, I would wonder, as an American brewery, there's lots of malteries over in the States. I mean, are they going to import the Pilsner malt from Germany or the Czech Republic? I think it's most likely an American produced Pilsner malt that's in this one, because it does come across as a little bit drier, I think, than the German and Czech ones that we would normally have. Most breweries in Europe, of course, are going to use German or Czech malts, although other countries, there's the Viking Malt Company here in Sweden, and a number of breweries use Viking malts. So yeah, I think it's probably an American produced Pilsner malt that's in this one, or Pilzen as they said. It's probably done slightly differently to kind of mimic the Czech Pilsner malt rather than the German Pilsner malt. But yeah, the back third of your tongue, it does feel a little bit thicker, but it does have a little bit of an almost spiciness to the wheat, and a little bit of that kind of Pilsner crisp bite actually, and I really like that, in fairness. But yeah, as you move further forward into that middle third of your palate, you can feel it really smoothens out a little bit, and you start to get some of the smoother elements of the wheat coming out there as well. As you go towards the front half of that middle third of your tongue, that's when you start to get some of the oaty kind of creaminess out of the beer, but that's quite minimal. I think the oats really take a back seat to the wheat and the Pilsner malt in this one, to be honest with you. They do come out as a little bit more of an aftertaste, in fairness, but I do think the oats take a back seat compared to other things. You've got a little bit of, in the middle of the palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of biscuity, a McVitie's Digestive biscuity sort of thing that comes out of this one, and I like how that, I do like how that goes together. It's got a little bit of sweetness, and I think the beer does get a little bit crisper and drier, but also at the same time a little bit sweeter and smoother the further you go into the aftertaste. I think it's, yeah, the back third of your tongue gets drier, whereas the middle third of your tongue just gets a bit smoother and sweeter. It's kind of an interesting contrast, to be honest with you. On the hoppy side of things then, if we go to the back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of the earthiness there that you would expect of the Mosaic, but some of that I guess will be coming from the Galena as well. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, the beer gradually does develop quite a slightly spicy floral aromaticity. I don't find this one to be particularly dank. I think this is more floral and aromatic rather than being kind of piney and resinous, although in fairness I think, El Dorado can give you a little bit of a slightly resinous quality. I do find this one more floral and aromatic and spicy rather than you know, rather than lighter and grassy. But yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, it's definitely on the edge of it. It's definitely a little bit more lighter and grassy, and I think that kind of suits the sort of the fruity characters that you get out of this beer. The fruity characters are quite nice. They're quite light and quite nice, actually, in my opinion. But yeah, on that front third of the tongue, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where the juicy kind of fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So if you go to the back of that front third of your tongue, you'll get that slightly more pungent passion fruity flavour. But as you come further forward from it, maybe there's a wee touch of mango there, but I think quite quickly it moves to be sort of pineapple-y, and that's, you know, that the El Dorado has a good complexity of different hops to it, but I find that this one quite quickly becomes more kind of pineapple-y, maybe slightly like papaya-ish, something like that. It does actually, there is quite a bit of papaya to the tropical side of this beer, I think. So yeah, pineapple and papaya, I think there's a nice sort of combination of different flavours there. But yeah, the very back of the palate, more pungent passion fruit, a little bit, pardon me, a little bit of mango there as well. But then as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, if you like, you start to get there's a little bit more of an oily character to it, and that's where you're getting the kind of more tangerine-y, orangey elements from, which will be from the mosaic, actually. So yeah, you do get a bit more of that kind of citrusy zest out of the beer. But yeah, the front part of your palate does have a good little bit of a citrusy zest to it. You get some of the kind of grassy, zesty notes out of this one. I might even, if I was blind tasting this without knowing the hops, I might have guessed there was a little bit of Centennial or something in this one, because the zestiness that the beer has is almost slightly lemony as well, actually, come to think of it. So yeah, I probably, if I didn't know what hops was in this one, what hops were in this one, sorry, bad grammar, terrible. But yeah, if I didn't know what hops were in this beer, I would probably think there was a little bit of Centennial in it, actually. So yeah, interesting, I have to say. So yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of round off the tasting section of the video, actually. This one, I think this is a nice, quite crisp and quite drinkable New England IPA. It's very nicely done, so thumbs up to Destihl Brewing Company for this one. They have done a solid job on this, in my mind. But yeah, definitely one of the kind of lighter and drinkable ones. It's quite a good summery IPA, this one, if you're in a very hot place. I mean, Illinois, I don't think Illinois is one of the hotter states. It's definitely not one of the hotter states in the summer and things like that. It's when you go, I remember always, I suppose, is it on the same latitude as DC? Because I know that in Illinois the winters can be insane in the kind of northern US, actually. But yeah, I remember DC was always very, very humid, and I think that might be on a kind of similar latitude to where it might be on a similar latitude to where normal Illinois actually is. I don't know, correct me on that, guys. If you're watching from that kind of central Illinois area, do let me know what your summers are like in the comment section below. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say that this beer, it's kind of top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. Carbonation has a good bit of crispness to it in this one. It's not over carbonated though, it does retain a bit of smoothness. The mouthfeel overall, like I say, it's got a bit of wetness to it, it's quite smooth, and it does have a nice crisp element, mainly because of that Pilsner malt that it has. The malt base has a nice bit of smoothness to it. There is a bit of spice and bite to it, in fairness, as well. Little tiny touch of sweetness, and you've got some nice kind of hoppy elements to the beer as well. As I say, you've got a good little bit of bitterness out of this. What would we say in terms of IBUs? Yeah, this one's not too high. This one must be about like 25, 30, something like that. I'd be more inclined to say like 25-ish than 30. Could even simply be 20, who knows. But yeah, there's a good little bit of IBU to this one, but not, you know, not overly much. But yeah, it's got a nice smoothness to the malt base, a little bit of crispness, wee tiny touch of sweetness in the malt base, as I said, as well, but some lovely kind of quite juicy fruits, actually. And I think the sweetness of the fruits does start to come out a little bit more the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. But overall, a really, really nice take on the New England IPA. This one definitely one of the more kind of light and crisper and drinkable examples that I've had in recent times, actually. This one I do like. Quite a few breweries in Sweden were adding Pilsner malt into the New England IPAs to make them a little bit more drinkable, but that was maybe what they were doing like last year or so. I remember there was quite a few of them doing it last year. One or two of the breweries also put a little bit of rice into the the malt base as well, just to make it feel a little bit more oily, and that was interesting. That was Dugas in Gothenburg that did that. But yeah, this one I really quite like actually, so I'll be keeping an eye out to see what other beers these guys are releasing over the next little while. It'd be cool to try something from the sour range that they have, and also from the barrel aged series too. So I'll need to just keep an eye and see what things appear in Systembolaget from Destihl. But yeah, this is the first IPA that we got from them, and this appeared in the Tillfällig assortment in August of 2020. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Extended Jam, a New England IPA coming in at 6.8% ABV. From Destihl Brewing Company in Normal, right in the centre of Illinois in the American Midwest. A really nice example of the New England style, and I think this one is definitely one of the more kind of crisp and drinkable examples that I've had recently. So yeah, cool stuff. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Destihl Brewing Company as well. Hopefully we can return to these guys fairly soon. Definitely nice to have another Illinois brewery for you here on the channel, and hopefully you can see a few more American reviews coming up over the next little while. Thank you again for watching my reviews. Do consider subscribing to the channel, and I will catch you guys later. I hope to hear from you in the comment section below. Check out my social media, check out Destihl Brewing Company, and I'll catch you guys on the next review. Slàinte, skål, cheers.